Hi, welcome to Cubs and Culture for July 11th, July 10th, 2018. Cubs lost today, 5-4. Nothing really changed. They're still a game and a half out from first place because the Brewers also lost. Whatever. Everyone played well. It's just unfortunate that the ball didn't bounce right for us today. So the main thing I want to talk about is Kyle Schwarber and Javier Baez have been invited and accepted going to the Home Run Derby. Now there's this goddamn myth that the Home Run Derby causes players to slump by participating. There's no strong evidence that this actually occurs. Okay, so I have to explain this concept. I've used it before. It's called regression to the mean. It basically means all players have a sort of natural ability or talent, which is what their average production over time will be. Now, they're never actually always at their average production over time. So if like a player's to be really simple, if a player's a 300 hitter, and that's where he naturally sits, there's going to be periods where he hits way above 300, and there's going to be periods where he hits way below 300. And so as time moves forward, if a player's greatly underperforming or greatly overperforming sort of his natural ability, you can expect correction over time. So what tends to happen with players is every once in a while you have a player who has a really hot stretch of a month, 2 months, or sometimes even a half a year, and then they have a brutal second half because it's the league adjusts to them, or they slump, or whatever. And so that's what I mean by regression to the mean. It's not always negative. Like Jason Hayward, for the last couple of years, have had pretty brutal offensive seasons, though he's on a very nice offensive tier. So this regression thing is why it's really somewhat hard to tell when players have jumped up a level for offense or defense. That they've jumped up, or pitching, whatever. They've jumped up and that they're sort of a new natural average. Which is why I've been saying, because Baez is putting in a absolutely wonderful season, then I'm fully expecting him to sort of crash and burn for 3-4 weeks at some point. Hopefully, if it's happening, it happens August 15th to September 15th, because that would be well timed for the postseason. So it's hard to tell when something is regression or something else. So let me go this way for once, because there's people that way. Now, the thing about the Home Run Derby is, about half the players who's ever participated in the Home Run Derby have had weaker second halves than their first half. So this is where the origin of the Home Run Derby fucks people over, messes up their swings, their timing, whatever the explanation is. Though I gotta say, there's no real good explanation, because the Home Run Derby is basically glorified batting practice. There's absolutely no causal story to tell here. In any case, so about 50% of the players end up having disappointing second half. So the question pretty naturally arises, did the Derby cause this? Now, it simply is a basic logic fallacy called ego prompto. I'm not going to do it in Latin. Basically, just because A occurred before B, you can't say that A causes B. So you have to sort of look at it. And so there's multiple ways you can look at this. So if the Derby was causing slumps, one thing you should expect right off the bat is certain player that if it is the Derby itself causes slumps, then all players should slump. That doesn't happen. Another thing you should expect is you should expect that Derby participants as a whole have weaker, not as good power numbers in the second half than non-Derby participants. So not every heavy hitter makes the Derby. So there's if you look at like the top 50 home run producers in any given year, and you split their seasons in half, post-Derby, pre-Derby, and look at the production numbers for first half and second half between the two groups, Derbyers and non-Derbyers, there's not a statistically significant difference. Okay? So there's that. Then the other thing you should expect is if there's a Derby effect, is it should affect all players, meaning better players should slump. So Chris Bryant, if he when he did the Derby, or I don't know, or Babe Ruth, or whatever great hitter you want to use, if he did a Derby, he should look at he should get a slump. So again, if you divide players, Derby participants, into players with weaker career numbers and players with stronger career numbers, you should expect, if there's a Derby slump, that both groups should suffer about equally. But what actually turns out to happen is the players who are better in their careers have less drop off in production. I think I'm lost. So we're going to go this way. Whatever, I'm just recording a video. They have a less of a drop off than the weaker players in their career. So all of this, that there isn't a difference between Derbyers and non-Derbyers in terms of power numbers, that not everyone gets a slump, that weaker players have a bigger slump than better that weaker players have a bigger slump than the better players coming out of a Derby, etc., all point to there being no causal relationship between the slumps and participation in the Derby. So if you look at like Abreu from the White Sox in 2009, where he participated in the Derby and then had a horrific second half, that second half slump in all likelihood wouldn't have happened anyway. So there is no strong evidence that the Derby causes slumps. It's just not causally impactful on players, at least not significant.